Hi everyone, this is the 2D geometry worksheet that you would have downloaded if you want to follow along with the foundations of 2D drafting in Rhino. You'll see here in our little legend, this is what we're going to be covering. We're going to look at control points, we're going to look at 2D geometric elements, and we're going to look at 2D operations, things like move, scale, copy, rotate. We're going to go through the gumball. And we are going to draw things like this: points and curves and arcs and polylines, rectangles, circles, polygons, etc. So let me quickly select all of these, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to type points on. And what you'll see here are, these are the control points that describe this geometry. And there are different ways to move these control points. We'll look a little bit at that, but basically you can sort of see how this polyline is described by these 4 control points. This circle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 control points. More about that later. Yeah, so that's the control points. And we'll get back to that. But let's move to points, lines, and curves. I have 2 layers in this file. One is called reference. That is this one here. It is all the blue, and that's basically just showing you sort of what you should draw. It's an example of what you should draw. And then there is a layer called your drawings, and it has its print color is red. And make sure you have that selected so that you can see what you're drawing. So let's start with just drawing a single point. To draw any kind of element in or geometric, any geometry in Rhino, there are 3 ways that you can do this. The first one is you can go up here to the menu bar, and because we're dealing with 2D elements, you could go to curve and you can see circle, arc, line, and here are different ways of drawing lines. That's the long way. I wouldn't recommend that. The second way is to go here to the icons right over here. For example, if I wanted to draw a line, I would go here to polyline and select line. Or I can, sorry, it's 4 ways actually. I guess the other way to do it would be to go up here. Let's see, drafting, and no, see, I don't even know where this is. Curve tools. No. I guess they're not up here in these tabs. But anyway, the best way to draw quickly and to just model quickly in Rhino is to use the command line. On a Mac, the command line is here, and for Windows, it'll be up here at the menu bar. So I'm simply going to type in point and press enter. And it's asking me for the location of the point. I have my point snap on, so I'm actually going to just go here and click on that point. You can't really see it, but let me do that again. Space bar to invoke the previous command, and I can do that with any command. Space bar, and I'm just placing some points here, roughly next to each other. Draw 4 points equally spaced. So instead of point, we're going to use the multiple points, and this allows us to just click, click, click points, and I can continue clicking points, and I don't have to press the spacebar. So that's for multiple points. Okay, draw a line from point to point. So line, it's asking me for the start of the line. I'm going to connect to this point, and sorry, I'm in the wrong one. Connect to this point and connect to that point, and there we have it. I can also draw a line by telling Rhino what the length should be. So you can see down here we're in millimeters. So any value I type in the command line will be in millimeters. Also know that, let's say, for example, I wanted to draw a line that was 2.27 inches in this file. I would just type in 2.27 inches. So it will read other measurements or other units, but you have to type it in. In this case, we're in millimeters, so I'm just going to type 50. So the first thing I'm going to do is type line. It's asking me for the start of line, which is here. And the end of my line, I could go here because obviously I can see where it is, right? But I want 50, so I'm going to type in 50, enter. And you'll see that I have a little white line here. And that's telling me where you can see the point ends there. This is a line that's actually 50 millimeters in length. So I'm going to hold down Shift, And I'm going to go down here and click. And there we go. We have a line that's 50 millimeters. I can measure this. The command line for that is dim for dimension. And I can go here from the beginning to the end, and you will see that, sure enough, it's 50 millimeters. Okay, let's delete that dimension. Divide this line into 6 segments. Okay, so we just have a single line here, and the command line for divide is divide. Okay, number of segments. I want 6 segments. I am just going to mark the ends. I'm not going to split this. We're going to do that in the next one. So I'm going to say done. And what this does is it divides the line and gives it into 6 segments. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it places endpoints on each one. And this is a very handy command sometimes if you have a line and you just want to quickly divide it into a certain amount of segments, and then maybe you want to start drawing lines from there, right? You can imagine something like that. Okay. Divide this line into 6 segments and split the segments. Okay, let's select our curve. We have 2 here. Select the curve and we're going to type in divide. Number of segments 6, and this time instead of marking the ends, I'm going to split the line. And you'll see that now we have 6 segments, but they're separate, right? This top one here is still one line, one continuous line, but these are split into segments. Okay. Draw a polyline. Polyline. Okay. Start of my polyline is here. And I'm simply going to hold down Shift to constrain at a 90 degree angle. And I am just sort of hooking onto these endpoints here. Oops, I let go too fast. Let me do that again. Spacebar. So I'm just holding down Shift and I'm following this line to create a polyline. There we go. Draw line segments. So for that, we're going to use lines. So I'm going to, so instead of line, singular, you type in lines, and I'll show you what happens. So it looks as if I'm drawing a polyline, but once I press enter, you'll see that I actually created line segments. This can be useful sometimes. Most of the time, you probably want your lines to be all joined. Okay, very useful command. Draw a line from midpoint to points B and C. So I'm going to invoke line. And before I click, I'm going to make sure I select both sides. So I can either click both sides or I can tap the key B. As you can see, B is underlined here. So there are other ones too, like normal, angled, vertical. If I want any of these others, I would just click that key. So B for both sides, enter. It's asking me for the middle of the line, that's A. I'm going to hold down Shift and I'm just going to go till I hit this point here. Very, very useful command. I use it all the time. Line from both ends. Let me just do that one more time. Line, B for both, and you can see that it will create equal lines on both sides of that point. Draw a control point curve with degree 1. So I'm going to type in curve. So these degrees, degree 1, you can kind of see what happens. This is the result that you should get. So degree 1 means that each control point is defined. Each point is defined by the control point. There's no curvature. There's no weight to it. As you perhaps saw in the other video I made about NURBS modeling and what NURBS geometry is, control points have weight to them, right? So this one is a degree of 1, which means that we're going to have a very, very defined degree curve here. So I'm going to change this degree to 1, press enter, and I'm going to just snap to these points and draw this curve. Here we go, and enter. Draw a control point curve with degree 2. I'm going to press spacebar because we're doing another curve. D for degree, as you can see up here. So I don't even have to click in here. So it's a D, enter, 2, enter. And now I can just connect to these points and you should get a curve like so. And finally, control point curve with a degree 3, spacebar, D for degree 3, and let's draw this. Okay, so you will notice that when I switch the gumball on, I can either move this up or down or left, sorry, right or left. I can also click each of these control points and move them separately with the gumball. I can also just drag these control points. I just wanted to quickly show you that, but we'll get back to that. But that's just to show you that any geometry that you draw in Rhino will have these control points that you can manipulate after you drew the geometry. Okay, let's move on to curve through points. Draw curve through points with a degree 3. So I'm going to type in curve through point. Now I want to select the points to build the curve through. So I'm going to select 1, 2, 3, and 4 and press done. And yes, my degree is 3 and I'm going to say done. And there we go. So it is important which order you choose these points in. So let's go down here and we'll do this again. So if I select this point and then this one, and then number 4, we'll have a curve that's shaped like that. Now if we do the same thing and let's see, we're going to switch control point 2 and 4 here. So let's do the same thing. Spacebar, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and done. And you'll see that I have a very different curve here. So the order is important. Okay, let's move on to handle curves and interpolated curve. So for interpolated curve, we're going to type in interp, degree 1, so D, enter, 1, enter. Let's see, yeah, we can just follow these points. Similarly, this time with a degree of 2. There we go. Handle curves work very much like the pen tool in Illustrator, for those of you that have worked a little bit with the pen tool in Illustrator. So it uses handlebars. So to invoke that, I have to say this is not something I have used very often, but I will just give a very quick overview of how this works. But if you're familiar with the pen tool, it's very, very similar. So we're going to type in handle curve. And let's see, let's do this one here first. I'm going to click to the end here. And if I move away, you'll see here are the handlebars. But I actually want a straight point. So I'm going to click one more time. Click. And if I continued, it would actually make a curve. It would start sort of bending that curve because you can see those handlebars are pulling. I don't want that. I want to go straight down. So I'm going to click again. Click here. One more time. And then when I click here, now I'm going to drag this till I match that over there. Oops, I let go too fast. Let's do that again. Click twice. Click twice. Click twice. Click once. Match that up and accept. So for a shape like this, I would click. I'm going to hold down Shift, and then I would go down here, hold down Shift, click, hold down Shift, click, hold down Shift. I don't know how accurate I'm being here, but click, hold down Shift, something like that. If you use your grid snap here, you'll be able to make a more accurate ellipse here. So you get the idea. I'll let you guys play with these couple of handle curve geometry. Let's move over to circles. A few ways to draw circles. You'll draw a lot of circles. Circles are very, very handy for measurement, for drafting, all sorts of things. So there are a few different ways you can draw a circle. I'm going to invoke the circle command, and you'll see We can draw circles in different ways by creating 2 points or 3 points. They can be tangent to other geometry. We can fit points. For now, I'm just going to use the center of the circle, and I'm going to just connect to this point. And now you'll see it says radius, but I want a circle with a diameter of 50 millimeters. So this is something to pay attention to. Sometimes you'll draw a circle and it's extremely large or extremely small. It's probably because you forgot to change the radius to diameter or the other way around. So we want diameter here, so I'm going to type the letter D, as you can see here, D, diameter, enter. And my diameter is 50, and it should just automatically draw that circle for me. To make a measurement for radius, it's dim R, and you can just select the circle and you'll see that it will, sorry, we're meant to do the dim diameter. It's dim diameter. I can just select this and you'll see that it'll tell us what the diameter is. But equally, I can say dim radius, and I can also see what the radius is of that circle. Okay, so let's this time draw a circle that has a radius of 34. So spacebar, oh no, we did dim radius, circle. Center of circle is here. Now it's still in diameter, so I want to make sure I press R for radius and the value 34 and press enter. And there we go. We can draw a circle with 3 points. I don't know why I don't have 2 points in here, but let's do 3 points first. But circle and 3 points, or O, or I can just click on this. Here's my first point, my second point, and my third point. Let's do that again. 3 points from here to here to here. Great. Similarly, I can also, let's say I have a point here and a point here. Circle, 2 points. I can simply draw a circle from 2 points. I'm defining the diameter, right? This is the diameter right here. Okay, let's move on to drawing a circle. Draw a circle tangent to these 2 circles. Okay, circle, tangent. Okay, so whenever my cursor is tangent to something, I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a little white line. Actually, you can see it better when I zoom out. In fact, you see the little white line there? That line is continuously tangent to the circle. So what we're going to do is we're going to select our first tangent curve here, click, and we're going to select our second tangent curve here and click again, and then enter to accept. It was asking for a third tangent line, but we didn't need that. We just needed those 2 tangent lines. Okay, draw a tangent to these 3 curves. Oh, I don't see 3 curves, so let's do this first. I'm going to just delete that real quickly, and let's just draw another line here. Something like that. Okay. And I'm going to move that to the reference layer. So draw a circle tangent to these 3 curves. So circle and tangent. Tangent to this, and finally tangent to here. So this circle is perfectly tangent to these 3 curves. Very, very handy command as well. Draw a deformable circle and create 3 different shapes. Let me just delete this one here. So deformable circle is one of those things that also I don't use very much, but here it is. Circle, and we want a deformable circle. Actually, let me just draw a circle, and now I'm going to do another one that is deformable, and we'll look at the difference. I'm going to make it exactly the same size. And let's move that over. Okay, I could have just copied and pasted that too. But you'll see that this circle has 4 control points. I'm going to switch the gumball off here. But these are the minimum amount of control points that Rhino needs to describe this circle. And it's enough for us to be able to use a circle in Rhino. Deformable, so you can see that it has created multiple control points. Now, if I move one of these control points, like so. Actually, if I move these control points, you'll see it's a much more regular transformation of this shape. Whereas here, each one of these control points are movable. So I can really go in here and shape this. For example, I could do a circle deformable. Let's do 12 points, right? So it's going to be a different amount of points. So you see this one has 12 points. This one I think had 17 points. So what I could do here is I could either with my gumball on, move these separately. So I could, if I wanted to do some kind of kidney shape, but I could also select multiple points. I'm holding down Shift, 1, 2, 3, and now I can move these down as well. Something like that. Okay, so that's deformable circles. So you can go ahead and create a few different shapes there. Ellipses, quite similar to drawing circles, very much defined by the diameter. So ellipse, this is my center. This is my first axis. It's asking me for the end of the first axis. And here's the end of the second axis. So that's one way to draw an ellipse. I can also draw an ellipse by defining the diameter, which is from here to here, and then here is the second axis. And you'll see there's a couple of other ways that you can create ellipses. I'll let you look at those yourself, but pretty straightforward and self-explanatory. Let's move over to arcs. I'm going to type in arc. You can also find arc down here, and you'll see there's several ways of drawing arcs. So the first one we're going to draw is an arc. And so what it describes here is how it's going to draw the arc, right? So draw an arc starting at the center. Then we're going to define the start of the angle and then the end. So if I just type in arc, it's asking me where is the center of the arc? Here's the center. Where does the arc start? Well, it starts here. And where is the end point or angle? And I can simply, you see, I'm creating an angle here, and it will tell you what the angle is. Oh, it's not telling me right now. But I'm going to go up to here, and you can see that we drew that arc starting from the center to the start and then the angle. Okay, next arc. Now, instead of the center of the arc, we are going to start from the start point. That's the first point we're going to define. So we're actually starting from here instead of here. So we're starting here and we're ending here, and then we point towards the arc, right? So let's just do that again. So start, I typed in S, and I can either go up or down, right? So it doesn't matter, but in this case, we're going to go up. So two different ways of drawing arcs. There are a couple of other ways as well. If you go down here, you can see you can also draw an arc from the start, the direction at start, the end, or start, end, direction at start, etc., etc. It's good practice to go through these. Another handy command is draw an arc that's tangent to curves. So arc, and we're going to click T for tangent. We're tangent to this curve here, first tangent curve. This is my second tangent curve. It's asking for my third tangent curve. And now it wants to know, does the arc go this way or does it go this way? So you just need to define which way you want to go. So in this case, I want to go this way. Okay. Polygons. There are no commands for specific polygons like hexagon or octagon. It's only one command, and it's polygon. And then we define how many sides it has. So here we have a hexagon. We want 6 sides. And it's asking me for the center of the inscribed polygon. So we don't really have the center here, but I do have the center snap on. So I could just click to the center and then to this point here, and I will have my my polygon. Another way I could have done this is to just draw a line from this end to this end if I didn't have the center point on and I only had the midpoint. And if I now draw a polygon, And yeah, it's six-sided, and I'm going to go to the midpoint. It's the same thing, right? So there we go. And draw an octagon. It's the same thing, but you're just going to N for number 8, enter, and it's find the center. Click back on the O snap for center, and there we go. Spiral. So we have flat spirals and we have a spiral. Let's do a flat spiral first. So spiral. Now, before we do anything, we want to make sure that Rhino knows we want to draw a flat spiral, and it's asking us for the spiral center, which is here. Where's the first radius and start point is here. Sorry, there. And then this is the end. I think I did this the other way around. Let's do that again. Flat. This is the center. This is the start, and then you pull it in. And looks like we want 4 turns. There we go. Not totally on the line, but you get the idea. There's another type of spiral that actually exists in 3 dimensions, and that is just spiral. This is the start of the axis. This is the end of the axis. And let me just go here into perspective, and then I'm just going to hook onto, let's see, this point here and this point here, and you'll see that we have a spiral that is in 3 dimensions. So spiral in 3 dimensions, or there's a flat spiral. Okay, but let's go back to top view. Okay, so those are polygons. Oh yeah, you can draw stars as well. So polygon, and instead of number of sides, I'm going to press the button star. Draw a star with 12 sides, N for number 12, enter, and you click. First, we're going to click the center of the star. Then we're going to determine where is the corner, or the first corner of the star, or a corner, right? Let's say this is the most outer corner. And now we're going to do is pull back in. And as you see, as I pull towards the center, the star becomes sharper, or sort of more rounder, right? These angles become more acute. So this would be a very sharp one, less sharp, etc., etc. Okay, so that's drawing a star. Let's move on to some curve editing tools. Draw this polyline and fillet the curves with radius 10. Okay, so actually this is already has a radius of 10. So let me delete both of these, but we're going to start with a polyline. And I'm going to switch on the grid snap just for now, holding down Shift. Okay, we have this one, and we're going to practice with these 2 lines. Okay, so fillet, and it's pronounced fillet. It's not a piece of steak. It's not fillet, so fillet. We want to create a 10 radius fillet here. So simply going to type in fillet. And it's asking us for the first curve. But first we have to change the radius. So R, enter, and 10. We're going to do radius of 10. Select the first curve to fillet. This is the first curve, and this is the second curve. And then it's going to create a fillet here. Okay, let's do that again and maybe create a different fillet. So fillet, and let's not join the lines, and let's do a 5-degree radius. And just to show you what it did, oh, it did join it. Did it join it? Oh, I see. It's when you have 2 separate lines. So let's say I have a line here and a line here. Okay. And I say fillet, not fill, fillet. Okay, I'm not going to type join. I'm going to select the first one and the second one. So it created a fillet, but the fillet is separate. Now, if you want this to be one continuous line, I could, of course, select all of that and type in join. But to save yourself some time, what you could do is type in fillet and make sure you have join selected, first and second. And now you'll see that it automatically joined those separate curves. Chamfer is the same idea except a different command, chamfer. And yes, we want 10 for the first distance and the second distance. Select the first curve and select the second curve. And there we go. We have a chamfer. Extending lines is a little counterintuitive. I'm actually going to start over here. Just draw a line here. So let's say I have a couple of lines, right? Something like this. Oopsie. And I want all of them to extend to this line. Of course, I could do this and I could scale from here to here and scale it to here. But there's a faster way to do this. I'm going to type in extend. Now, it's a little counterintuitive, but what it wants to know, it first wants to know what the boundary is. You would think that it would say, well, what do you want to extend? But no, you need to select the boundary first. So this is our boundary. This line is our boundary. And we're going to press enter. And now it's saying, which curve do we want to extend? Now I'm hoping I can select multiple curves. Yes, there we go. So I'm just selecting these curves. Oh, why is it doing this? Just do this again. So extend. This is my boundary. Select curve to extend. There we go. So I'm just selecting these curves and it's extending it. I don't know why it's doing that right now. For some reason, that's interesting. It won't extend this curve. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but there you go. That is extending horizontal lines. Tweening curves, that's a pretty fun one. Let's just move these two guys over to our drawings as well as these guys. Okay. Tween curves, this is a similar concept to maybe those of you that have done any animation. When you have one frame, a certain action happens, you have another frame, maybe the figure crouches down here and it jumps up and you just have these two frames. You can just tween those frames and it'll create the steps in between. So that is, I guess, tween short for between, right? So tween curves, this is my start curve, this is my end curve. And right now I have it set to 30, but let's change that to 15 and we'll have something like that, right? So it's kind of a fun one. You can do that with any kind of curve. So I could even do, let's say I have a polyline and a completely different polyline. I can tween those curves. And we can increase the number. And let's see, we can flip. That's not a very good result, but maybe that's what you want. Yeah, but there you go. You can make some very cool geometry very quickly. Here are two polygons, so let's tween these, tween curves, start, end, and there we go. Let's flip that. Interesting results. Okay, so that is tweening curves. Let's go over to fillet corners. I'll let you guys do fillet corners and symmetry on your own. I'm going to move over to offset. So let me actually offset to the outside. Let me just delete these and draw new circles here. I'm not sure why those were already finished, but we have two circles here. I want to offset this circle by 4 millimeters to the inside. So I'm going to type in offset. This is the curve I want to offset, and my distance, D, enter, is 4, enter. And you can see I can either offset to the outside or to the inside. So, and you can see that little white line tells you which direction you're moving. Right here I'm going in, this way I'm going out. So I want it to go inside, and I just click. So this line is offset by 4 millimeters from this one here. I can also offset to the outside, so I'm just pressing spacebar, and we still have the different distance of 4, so this time I'm going to offset to the outside. Another very handy command is to offset from both sides. So for example, I might be drawing walls. This is my center point. I know that my wall is 8 inches, so I want to offset 4 inches each side. So we're in millimeters here, but just imagine we're in inches. So I'm going to say offset. Now before I do anything, I want to make sure that I select both sides. And I'm already on 4. And you can see that it'll offset this line to both sides at a distance of 4 units, which is great. I'll let you play around with this one as well. And then let's move over to array functions. So there are a few different arrays. If I start typing in array, you'll see that there is array on curve, array whole polar, linear polar, array surface. Let's start with polar. Polar array just means that I have a center point and I'm going to array objects around that central point. So let's draw a circle anywhere, maybe here, and let's array 17 circles around the central point. So array polar. This is the object I want to array. Press enter. This is the center point, and I want 17 numbers, 17 items. And I'm going to fill it 360 degrees. I want to go all the way around. Press enter and you'll see that we have 17 circles arrayed exactly around this point. Now note that we haven't committed yet. The lines are still pink and we have to press enter one more time to accept. There we go. Let's backtrack. We can of course do that with any kind of shape. So even if I had a polyline, I'm just going to draw something like that. Array polar. This is the object I want to array. Spacebar to accept. Here's my center, and let's do something like 167 of those, 360 degrees. There we go, and accept. I also don't have to array all the way around, so I can say array polar this object to this object. Oops, I selected both. Let's just do that again. This object to this point, and let's do 34 objects, but instead of 360 degrees, we're going to do 180 degrees. And you will see that it'll go this way around, right? Okay. This is a similar idea. This is an array that arrays sort of more in a matrix fashion, so in two different directions. So we are in the Y and X plane right here. We're in the top view. So rectangular array with X count of 5, Y count of 5, and Z count of 1. Okay, so I'm simply going to, wow, we have a lot of curves here. Let's just select a few and delete these. Okay, we are left with one curve. So, and I want that to be a continuous line. There we go. Okay, so we're simply going to type in array, number in X direction 5, number in Y direction 5, and we're going to keep Z and 1 because we don't have a Z here, right? So if I press enter, now it's asking me for the spacing. And what I like to do is I either like to go to the end point or the midpoint. Let's do end point here. And then you see I can drag and I can sort of define where this should, what the spacing should be. I can also type in the spacing, but for now, I'm just going to accept that and I'm going to press enter. And just to show, if we go in the perspective view, you can see why we didn't have any in the Y direction. You can do the Y direction as well, which will give you a three-dimensional array matrix, right? Back to the top view. This is a similar one. Here we have a array linear. Array linear. That just simply means that I want to array something in a linear fashion. This is what I want to array. Number of items, here I want 13 items. And my reference point, I have my center snap selected, and you can see I can array. It'll always be linear, but I can definitely define what the angle is. If I hold down shift, now it's going to constrain it to 45-degree angles. So maybe I want something like this. Okay. Array polar, 17 lines from the central point. So this should look familiar too. So I'm going to make a line here. B for both sides. This is the center of my point. I'm going to snap to the end here. Okay, now I have my line. Array polar. The object I want to array is this line. Press enter. This is the center of my polar array, and I want 17 lines. So let's change that to 17. Press enter, and let's do 360 degrees, and you should have something like this. There we go. Okay, lastly, we're just going to look at splitting and trimming. This is a command you will use a lot. Okay, so I'm going to, you can see something, this is very handy when you're drawing plans or just any kind of 2D drafting. So I'm going to go ahead and select all these lines. I find this the easiest way to trim. The idea with trimming is, let me just do this real quickly. I have a circle here and maybe another circle here. The idea with trimming is that I select everything, I type in trim, and I get rid of the geometry that I don't need anymore. For example, I don't want this and I don't want this. This is my new geometry, right? And I say done. And you will have to then take those lines and join them. I think there's maybe a way to do that automatically. Let's see, trim. No, you have to join them afterwards. Okay, so join. And there we have our new shape. So select all of this. This might be a plan or something. Trim, and maybe I want to do something like this. And then a doorway or something like that, and say done. And you'll see these are all separate. You can just go ahead and select all of those and type in join. I can also select all of this and then type trim and select multiple things. So I want to get rid of all of this and then go the other way. I want to get rid of all of that. Oopsie, this way. And maybe that one and that one. Done. Okay, lastly, splitting. This just basically, so if I have a line and I have some other lines, and I'm going to type in split. What is the object that I want to split? It's this one. I press spacebar to accept. And what are my cutting objects? It's this one and this one. Now nothing is going to disappear. My cutting objects are still the same, but now I have split this object into these different parts. So let's do that here again. Let's say split. This is the object I want to split. Oh, I see this is split already. Oopsie, let's do that again. So let's draw a circle from here. Okay, split. This is the object I want to split, accept, and these are my cutting objects. My cutting objects are still the same, right? So I could reuse those probably if I wanted to. But I now have split my circle into 4 parts. Okay, that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Oh, we have to do some 2D operations, right? So to move, so let's just draw a quick rectangle here. Move is simply the move command, and I can just type move. This is the object I want to move, spacebar to select. And where do I want to move it from and to? So I could move it from any of these points. I could say move it from here to here, right? I can also, if I have specific points, this is also very handy. I can say move this from this point to this point. I can also use my gumball to move this way into the X direction, into the Y direction. It's less accurate. I can also click on the X arrow and type in units. So let's say I want to move this square or this rectangle 12 units into the in the x direction, 12 positive units, I could just type in 12 and it'll move that 12 inches. Okay, let's do a little bit of scaling. I can scale with a gumball. I can scale in one dimension. So right now I'm just scaling in the x direction. I can also scale in the y direction. If I hold down shift, I will uniformly scale, and I can grab any of these handlebars like that. I can also scale by typing in scale. So let's actually create a square here. Okay, so scale 1D. This is my base point. This is my end point or scale factor. So I'm scaling in one dimension, and you can see I'm only scaling. Let's just switch off grid snap. I'm only scaling in the x direction, right? Let's do that again, but this time I'm going to go from this point to this point. So now you see I'm scaling in the y direction. I can also scale 2D, and now if I scale, you'll see that it will scale in 2 dimensions, right? It's scaling in the x and the y dimension. Okay. Copying is pretty easy. Just type copy. It's going to ask me what point do I want to copy from. And I can just, maybe I want to put it there in the midpoint. And I can keep going. And I want another one there. And maybe I want another one here. And another one here. And so forth once I'm done. So that's copy. Rotate. Let's move this over here. I can rotate with my gumball, right? I can either drag that. It's not very precise. I can also click in this blue line and define an angle like 45. And if I do minus 45, it's going to go back. But I can also invoke the rotate command. This is the object I want to rotate. This is my center of rotation, and this is the end of my rotation. And you'll see I can rotate around that angle there, around that center point. I can also change the center point, so rotate. This is my object to rotate. Maybe this time I want the center point. And let's use this midpoint here, and you'll see now it's rotating around that center point. Okay. Okay, so that is everything for this specific tutorial. Please make sure you also watch the Foundations of Rhino tutorial before you watch this. And that's it for now.